You're not connecting? Yeah, I'm good. And I'm doing Instagram Live this time instead of Good Morning, instead of Periscope. See how that goes. Let's see. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Getting started here in a minute. Waiting for the commercials to finish up. And then we'll be started.
The best way to be right is to lean right. Or dedicated to shining a light on the issues that
Good
challenge
morning,
our
Ann.
community. Listen for the commentators.
You coming to Africa with us?
9:20 a.m.
You're on my list of people to call.
And 11:55 p.m. only on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Phillips in the house. What's going on, brother?
The views expressed on our programs are not necessarily those
Here
of
we go.
WVON, Midway Broadcasting Corporation, or our participating sponsors.
Live from the Xfinity Studios at WVON. We're your original social media. You're listening to Inspirational Perspective with Linal Harris on 1690, The Talk of Chicago.
Good morning, Chicago. You're listening to Inspirational Perspective. I'm your host, Linal Harris, your very own life coach right here on WVON 1690 AM, The Talk of Chicago. Inspirational Perspective on your radio is all about murdering mediocrity and living the best life possible. And as I ask you every Sunday morning, are you living the best life possible? And this is the place to be, to explore that possibility, that opportunity. Well, good Sunday morning, the first Sunday morning of June 2018. Time just keeps on moving. Excited to be here. Excited to be here for a couple of reasons. One, I just feel good this morning. Feel great. I don't know about you, Emmanuel. How you feel this morning?
I feel good.
Yeah. Emmanuel's in the studio with me this morning as well. And two is because we finished up the Identity series last week. That was a 6-part series, man. A 6-part series on identity. And one of the things that I'm aware is that I had a lot of phone calls at the end of that show last week. But I wanted to get through the material, and Emmanuel put together a compilation, video compilation of the show. So I took a look at that, and I realized that I sped through some of it because I had a time restriction, right? So I'm sure you guys have questions. So one, I'm excited to hear those questions. So if you have questions from the Identity series, give me a phone call, 773-591-1690. But then I'm also excited about what's next. And what I want to talk about next is now that we have this baseline, right? Because that's kind of what I'm doing here. I want to talk about how do we take ourselves to the next level. But I want to take my time and really break down how do we take ourselves to the next level. Now, why did I start with identity? Let me answer that question first. Often I'm asked, or there's always the question that's on the table within the African American community in terms of What is the one thing, right? Because I guess we're always looking for a silver bullet. What is the one thing that African Americans need to focus on to take themselves to the next level, right? And if you think about the group as a whole, and there are a lot of different answers. I think one of the most popular answers that I hear all the time is economics, right? We need money. We need economic opportunity in our neighborhoods. If my wife yesterday called me and she was really frustrated because she was coming home from the gym, and the way she goes through a majority black neighborhood, right? And there was a grocery store there that got shut down. And it's the only grocery store that I know of in that community. I mean, in the area that she was riding, like that was their only grocery store. So she was like, man, they just made this a food desert. I mean, because the only thing they have readily available outside of what that grocery store may have offered is McDonald's, beefies, pizza, all that stuff, right? And so often when we have this, when we talk about this, what happens is we go towards economics, right? That's the one that I hear the most, that people say is the number one opportunity of the African American community. Now, you might be surprised, but I disagree. And that's why I talked about identity and purpose, because I believe the number one opportunity in the African American community is to understand who you are, first and foremost, right? How powerful you are, and then combine that with a sense of purpose. Because then if I give you some money, you'll know exactly what to do with it, right? Then if I give you an economic opportunity, you'll know exactly what to do with it. You'll be very clear, right? And not only will you experience a larger level of success, I believe, but your ability to be persistent and resilient, despite what may come as an entrepreneur, you'll be able to navigate past those things too. So that's why I started with identity, right? Because it's so important that we understand how powerful we are, who we are, and what it is that we can create. Now, so that brings me to today's topic of then how do we go to the next level? So once you're clear on your power, once you're clear on your purpose, you know who you are, right? You know how powerful you are. Not only do you have self-esteem, but you have social esteem, right? We talked about that did we talk about social esteem? Yeah, we talked about social esteem last week. I probably sped past it. So let me slow down and talk about what social esteem is, okay? So once I have identity and purpose, automatically there's going to be a different level of self-esteem, right? Because I know who I am. I ended last week's identity finale with saying who I am. I am Kwesi Linal Maurice Harris of Burkina Faso, by way of Burkina Faso through my father, by way of the Bioko Islands of Cameroon through my mother, right? And then I went into other labels in terms of who I am. Now, I know that now, right? I also know my purpose on the planet, which is to be an authentic leader and speaker who speaks and leads with the purpose to help myself and others live the best life possible. So these are the things that I know about myself, right? And through practice and consistency, I've gained confidence in these areas of my life, right? The fact that I am a transformational speaker, transformational coach, I've gained confidence in these areas, right? So as a result, this has an impact on my self-esteem. This has an impact on my self-esteem, how I think about myself, right? Now, one of the reasons why identity for African Americans, like really going into that conversation about identity for African Americans was important, is because while some of us have this self-esteem, what we don't have is this sense of social esteem, right? What do I mean by social esteem? What I mean by that is not only do I have a good sense and confidence and feeling for myself, self-love, right? You heard Kanye's new album yet?
I have not.
It starts off a little crazy. But one of the things he says is, I love myself. Okay? I ain't gonna say nothing else. But he says, I love myself. And it had me laughing because of how he said it. But I do believe Kanye loves himself. Don't get me wrong. But a healthy sense of self-love that we all have for ourselves, right? But do I have that same love for my group? For the group of people that look like me? Do I have that same love? When I see them, do I have a sense of admiration and love? That's social esteem, right? Do I have confidence in my brother? Do I have confidence that this brother, as he performs his role, will do a good job, will show up well, will do great things, right? That's social esteem. That's one of the things that in our community is lacking, right? So that's why I talked about identity. Because, all right, yeah, we could pour economic resources into our community, but if I don't have social esteem, I'm not going to support you. Because I don't trust you. And I don't love you. So that's why that conversation was so important to start with. Because we cannot take ourselves to the next level until we are clear on our identity, but also the things that are in some ways tearing down that identity, right? All around us. And that is what I was talking about in terms of the American doctrine of black inferiority. All right? Which is why in the 60s and the 70s, you saw us attack it from the same context, black power, right? Those type of things, all right? Even today, Black Lives Matter. All of that is in the context of that doctrine. We have to break outside of that doctrine if we want to see movement, okay? We have to shift the context. All right, so now that we've covered that, and by the way, any questions about that series, give me a phone call, 773-591-1690. But now that we switched that, what I want to talk about now is how do you go to the next level? How do you go to the next level? Part of which is why, going to the next level is why I created the trip to Africa, the transformational tour of Africa, of Ghana, right? By the way, there are 3 seats left. 3 seats left. Now, that doesn't mean, you can't go with me. Right? You can go. You might be paying more. So when I say 3 seats left, I'm saying 3 seats left at the current price. At the current price. If you want to take this trip to Africa, this transformational tour of Africa, and by the way, I'm so passionate about this trip because I saw people in a matter of 8 to 9 days go to the next level, right? Like mentally, spiritually, physically take themselves to the next level, like begin to play on another level as a result of the transformation they received in Ghana. So that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about this trip. 3 seats left. So if you are interested in going on this trip, be sure to go to murdermediocrity.com, fill out the registration form so we can give you all the information on how to make your payment. All right. And I'm looking at my notes. Just address the number one opportunity facing African Americans in the country. So that's what we talked about. There's one other thing that I talked about last week that I wanted to tap into. I talked about this notion of being a victim versus being fully responsible. And I flew right past it. I was listening to the show, I flew right past it. I'm like, man, do people really understand what I meant by that? Before I go into it, I do have a call. And so let me take the call. Good morning, Frank. How are you? You're on the air.
Oh, good morning, my brother. That was quick. I love it. My brother, it's a darn good topic. I really like it. And I agree with you. I believe that the number one thing that we need to focus on as far as going to the next level is family. Okay?
Okay.
And particularly the black man. All right? Certain truths and reality must be acknowledged, faced, and accepted, and talked about and worked out. And what I'm talking about is the black man being displaced unintentionally as the head of his household. The black man in this country is the only man in this country that's been attacked internally and externally. Okay? And the other man, except for the Muslim man, the Catholic man, internally. That's a different topic. I'm going to get with us.
Right.
This is why I said family, because if the black man who was ordained, designed by God to be head of the household, if he does not have that position, he cannot be head of the community and secure his community. So the black man, dealing with today's modern woman, need to come together. I'm glad this is being broadcast to a lot of men, because too many men are coming home finding out, thinking that they was a loving husband and caring father, that like 10,000 men, oh, you ain't done it wrong, I just don't want to be married anymore. And that's thanks to these social programs, and thanks to the fact that women are being hired 3 to 5 times more than men in the black community. But what we going to do about it? What can we do about it? There is something that we can do about it, okay?
And what's that?
It all boils down to a custody of the kid. The child custody structure in this country is way out of balance. Thanks to the social programs and the way women are being hired and everything, you know what I'm saying? They got kind of big-headed. And ugly truths and facts must be faced with that. And we need to understand that the black woman has just as heavy a hand in displacing the black man as the head of the household as any other hand out there. And that's a fact. You know what I'm saying? Because back in the day, there was no social program. Women weren't allowed to vote. Women weren't allowed to work. So in divorce and separation, the kids automatically went to the father. Now that has changed, and that has caused corruption.
But Frank, I still haven't heard the full solution yet. You're telling me the problem.
Okay,
What's the solution?
The full solution is, brothers, like I told my little nephews, my little grandsons, do not marry none of these women in this country unless she is willing to sign a document that stipulates if either one of us decide we just want to be married anymore, and the other one has not committed any vows breaking, anything like that, or on the way to prison, you know what I'm saying? Then you are the one that loses custody of the kids. If she doesn't sign it, do not marry her. You not want to.
Well, Frank, thank you so much, man. And I got your point. I got your point.
You got my point?
I got your point. All right.
Only take back our position, head of the household.
All right. So I both agree and disagree with Frank. I agree that a man is the head of the household. There's no doubt. What I disagree with is that a man can raise a child alone. I disagree that a woman should be raising a child alone. And if you had asked me this question before I was a father, I might have been a little more like, I don't know, right? But now that my son is 1 year old, okay, and I'm very clear about the impact I'm having on his life and the impact his mother's having on his life, and he needs both of us. He needs my more loose, direct way of being, more direct approach to discipline and communicating with him, and he needs the nurture, care, love, softness of his mom. He needs both. And at different times, he prefers one of us over the other, right? He don't want to deal with his mama. He don't want all the hugs. He don't want all that, right? He want to hang out with dad because dad's going to let him do what he want to do, right? And if he falls and bumps himself, dad will pick him up and give him the love he needs and puts him back down, right? Now go off and keep exploring, right? Now, so, and he's 1 year old. Now, as he continues to develop, it's going to get more complex. And we're going to need each other to do a good job at that. So I disagree with the fact, because all you're doing is driving more division, right? Oh, that the man has to have that child. Both need to be playing a very key role. Both need to be playing a very key role. So I see where you're going, but I'm not sure that it would solve the problem, right? Now, is family a big deal? Family's huge. Family's huge. I'm going to go back to what I said initially. This is why I stand on identity and purpose. All right? When a man knows his purpose on the planet and he knows that before he chooses a spouse, he is more likely to be successful in that marriage because he chose a spouse aligned with his purpose, right? If a woman knows her purpose on the planet, she is clear on her identity, right? And she is approached by a man and she uses her identity and purpose to source whether or not that man is for her, the likelihood that she is in a good marriage, that she can be in a relationship that will work, goes higher. I stand by that. Marriage is not easy. It's not easy. It is like anything else that you want to do in this life and you want to be successful at. You want to run your own business? That's not going to be easy. You're gonna run up against resistance. You're gonna run up against obstacles and barriers, okay? But if you are clear on why you are there, why you're in it, what it is that you're looking to achieve, that will give you the perseverance, the commitment necessary to move forward. All right? No different with marriage. I know my wife is for me, and I know that she is aligned with my purpose on the planet. Okay? So to leave her, right, when she is the one woman that I found that aligns with my purpose on the planet. So for me to up and leave or to give up on that is for me to to basically be giving up on my purpose. Right? And because those are so closely aligned in my life, when we come up against challenges, then it gives me the fortitude to move forward, right? It gives me the ability to focus in on the commitment. One of the things we're going to talk about today is awareness, right? How aware of ourselves we are. Because you can't go to the next level without awareness. So it gives me the fortitude to gain sight of the commitment, right? Look at the commitment versus the obstacles and the barriers. Focus in on the commitment versus the emotion. And make my decision from commitment, not from feelings. Why? Because feelings come and go. Man, you make a temporary decision based on how you feel today related to something permanent. You almost always gonna find that you're making a mistake, whether it's in your business, your marriage, whatever it is. Okay. So my mom said on Facebook that family should be part of the purpose. I agree with that. One of the reasons I got married is because I wanted to have a family. Otherwise, I'd stay single. If I didn't want a family, I'm good out here by myself, right? All right, so that's my take on it. And I see where you're going, Brother Frank. I saw where you're going. I get the role of the man in the home. It is irreplaceable. But we have to be careful of ranking one over the other. This is a partnership. We need both. We got to figure out how to keep both. If the parents aren't together, they got to figure out how to both be a part of that child's life. And one of the reasons why we allow the court and the social system to make these decisions for us is because we're not clear on our identity. And we don't have the level of self-awareness, self-esteem, self-confidence that we need. And so instead of having these difficult conversations ourselves, we got to go to somebody else. And you know how that's going to go. So, all right. I got Sal. And then after Sal, I want to talk about what it means to be a victim. Are you a victim? And don't just say, nah, I'm not a victim. Think about it. What does it mean to be a victim? And are you a victim anywhere in your life, right? Because we're not victims, in like everywhere. And this is when we talk about awareness later, this is why the conversation on self-awareness is so important. I can't tell you how many of us struggle with self-awareness. We're real good at pointing at other people, though. Oh, you can see their stuff. I can see your stuff, Emmanuel. Oh, Emmanuel should do this better. He should do that better. But am I spending the same amount of time thinking about the leader that I am? Now, Why is he doing that? Am I leading him properly? Am I doing all I can as a leader, right? To ensure that he's conducting himself the way I want him to, versus just focused over there, right? But many of us, we're so outward focused, it becomes difficult to go inward. We're going to talk about that at length, because you cannot, I can go into goals. I can start teaching on goals and going to the next level and what it takes to accomplish your goals, because that's part of where I want to go. But it doesn't even make sense if you're not self-aware, because you're not going to even see the fact that you're sabotaging that goal. It just won't even calculate. And then it just be like, why? I just never, ever am successful. I don't know what's wrong. You? Nobody else. It's just you. This is your life. Sal, good morning. How you doing?
Hey, what's going on, young man? This is Art.
Oh, this is Art. Okay. All right.
Not a problem, not a problem.
That's all right. Yeah. Art, how are you?
Fine, sir. First of all, you're absolutely correct. There's no such thing. It's silly and foolish to think that any one of the party, male, man or woman, can raise children or a child by themselves. It's silly.
Yeah,
it
man.
doesn't make any sense. I don't know why would anybody even try to have such a conversation. So we're going to leave that alone, because God wouldn't have made man and woman if it could be done by itself.
Yeah. And let's be clear about something. It is being done, but I think what we're looking at is the ability to do it successfully.
That's the point.
Yeah.
I mean, we can do a lot.
It is being done.
But the
Right.
full success of it,
Right.
one will have to take in many parts of an individual life who had a single parent. They will tell you there's some things that as I mature and got older, I see that I miss. And this is the way why I act this way or that way. So
Exactly.
let's be very clear on that. That's number one.
Right.
So I don't know why that.
And shout out to the parents that are doing it. Let me tell you something, man. My wife and I, we have a partnership. And that little guy in our home has completely transformed our home. Okay? I don't know what it would be like to be a single father. My goodness, right? And then I think about the single mothers. The single mothers who are out here with multiple children, going to school, going to work. I'm like, whoa, shout out to you.
But here's where I feel that we make mistakes in. I don't think it's necessary to congratulate any mother or father, whether you are doing a two-parent home or a single parent, for doing what you're supposed to do.
And Art, this is where I'm going to disagree with you, because one of the mistakes we make in our society is we don't acknowledge each other enough.
Well, I think that
we have to acknowledge each other, brother. We have to encourage one another.
Let me underline that.
Okay, go ahead.
What I'm saying when I say that is to say that I think in our society in America, we do too much gratulatory where people do things with certain things. A child is something two people decide to make. It wasn't dropped out of the air and you just chose it and you picked up something that I didn't want to do. Number one, I cannot give a woman or a man credit if you go out and choose a mate and for whatever your reason this didn't work out and all of a sudden now I want to say this is a hard-working man because your woman you chose decide to run out on you or vice versa. This is just part of what I call living, from that perspective.
Right.
That's all what I'm trying to say. So I think, I'm not saying we shouldn't acknowledge each other, but I just think we get too far in there when we say, oh man, it's a great single mom. She has 4 children by 4 different fathers. And we go, oh, because she's making it. No, she should have decided after the first one, this is a very difficult task. If I don't choose better mates or a better mate, that this is not going to come out good for me nor my children.
So let's talk about that, Art. Let's talk about that. Because there's a level of judgment that you have for that mother. Can you hear it?
Yeah, mother and father, the man who did it.
Yeah. There's a level of.
I don't have a problem with that.
There's a level of judgment, right? Now let me tell you what happens, and this is my problem with being judgmental. When we judge somebody else, right? Because that's judgment. When I'm judging you, right? You had 4 children by 4 different men, and I'm saying it in a negative way. Then that's a judgment. I'm saying it in a negative way, like you should have known better. What if she didn't? What if she was the product of a single household and she made some mistakes, and now she's stepped into a level of awareness, okay, where she is taking care of those children, and she's struggling while she does it, and she's suffering from those mistakes.
Well,
the last thing she would need is my judgment.
Okay, let me say this again. You made something that was very interesting. You said when the courts come in and make a decision because two people are too emotional to make practical decisions because they're both are selfish. So at the end of the day, I can understand someone having a child the first time and they made a decision and it wasn't the right decision, but a baby came out of it. But you can't continue, or I can't continue to make the same choices and think there's going to be a different result and go, oh, I made a mistake. You knew how hard it was when you had the first child, whether you're a two-parent family or a single-parent family. So let's make sure we're clear, because I don't want nobody calling this, I'm picking on women. I wouldn't care if it was a two-parent family.
And I'm not saying that you are. What I'm saying is I'm just pointing to the judgment. And this is where I think this is where we got to show love. Like, okay, you made the mistake. You made the mistake. You did something that, according to me, right, and how I view the world, is not a good decision. But maybe you're beginning to come outside of that. Maybe your understanding is opening up. One of the things we're going to talk about later this morning is awareness, right? Hey, brother, not everybody is as aware as you.
Well, I'm going to say this again. It comes down to, and you say it again, taking responsibility. I cannot continue to push the blame on decisions and don't expect to be judged. We all, when we go out in this world, regardless of what we believe or not,
now that's true.
There are court systems. Whether you are aware of the law or not, you will be judged. And
that's true.
According to where the law is, there are consequences we all pay.
That's
so
true.
At the end of the day, I'm saying in life it's the same way. And last point, codes of conduct. And it's very important in family. The problem is we're getting away, not you, I know you for family 100%. We want to get away from codes of conduct for our community and our home and family. And there's nothing wrong being absolute in certain things. We can give too much space for people to continue to do things, then we're saying, oh.
So I want to be clear. I'm not giving space. I'm not giving space. But one of the things that judgment does, if I judged you in this conversation right now, it would turn you off. It would push you further away, and you have something I need. So let's take. Give me 1 second. So let's take this mother of 4 children, 4 different fathers, right? Your perspective, your guidance, your wisdom is something she needs more than your judgment. Would you agree?
Yes, sir.
And so that's why I'm saying we have to lead with love. We have to get, and by the way, not taking away the importance of the institution, right? Not taking away the importance of the institution, not taking away what you're saying. What you're saying is right. But where I'm looking is how we go about it. Are we using wisdom? How you implement what it is that you say. Are we using wisdom? Or is there a level of judgment that would drive people away to the point where she finds herself with the 5th? Where if you had shown love, right, it'd be like, what Art said is interesting. I need to think about that. I need to raise my children aligned with his way of thinking because you came from a place of love.
Well, let me give 2 analogies real quick.
Okay.
Very simple.
All right.
When a woman has a child, she exhibits pain going through birth and carrying a child.
True.
Are we going to say because she exhibits pain that is negative and she don't love her child that's being born into the world because she exhibits pain? Or when you
Absolutely
spank
not.
your child and you spank your child out of love for something he or she may have done, number 2. And last point, let's use our words and our opinions and facts sometimes is used as medicine. And every medicine you take is not going to taste good and sweet. And it's going to be. A person's going to fight the medicine. I don't want this. I don't want to go through the process of healing with this medicine. You have an easier way out. So sometimes language of people's position or how they deliver information is like medicine. So times you may get to me, it may be the point where you need that medicine and it won't take good. Maybe when they start with you, you give it to them a little lighter because, okay, that person, you gradually give it to them. But when they come around to me, at the end of the day, if I believe homosexual is wrong, I'm not going to dance around it. I'm going to tell you, it is wrong. There's no exception to the rule. Somebody else might dance around it because maybe you're trying to get a person to see something. So I think language and how people's personality that God gives them is like medicine. And may God bless.
Got it. I can agree with you on that, brother. All right, man. Have a good one. All right. Good phone call from Art. And, hey, I like the ability to debate each other respectfully, and I appreciate you listening, Art, and having a conversation with me, brother. That was big. Good call. All right, Mama D, good morning. How are you?
Oh, hallelujah. Greetings to you. I agree with you 100% that we must know who we are as crimes against humanity descendants, Jim Crow genocide survivors, and Native Black Americans who have been raised by slave master parents for 246 years that taught us that we were a movable property thing, and then another 88 years of being too inferior to eat food, drink water, and use the toilet with other human beings by law. That's what, 340 plus years, meaning we've only had 65 short years to overcome all of that. And until we deal with that, it doesn't matter giving us some cash because we won't know how to use it. We must have that character, then a career, then some cash, and we can move forward. And,
Mama D, you said something really important. And I want to stress that you talked about the Jim Crow era. Because I had a comment, I don't know if it was on YouTube or something, somebody asked, why doesn't Mama D talk about the Jim Crow era and lynching? And I'm like, I thought she does, but you said that. You said, so I'm actually pointing it out for what the listener that wrote the comment. But here's the other piece that you said that's really important. I think we forget that sometimes. I honestly, and this is why I started with the conversation around identity and this doctrine of black inferiority. And one of the things that you're covering is throughout those years, right? So 300, how many years did you say 300?
It's from 1619,
right?
December 1865, which is 246 years.
Right.
And then followed by the 88 years of Jim Crow genocide. I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people ask me, why are you saying genocide? I'm saying
it's genocide. It was genocide, yeah.
Because I know the definition of genocide.
Right.
They defined the definition of genocide on December 11th, 1946.
That's
the
right.
United Nations said, number one, Section 8 rather, killing members of the group. So all that lynching, by definition, was genocide. Then it says causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. Now, if you May 17, 1954, Brown versus Board of Education decision said that the children who were so young until they had to express themselves with dolls, that the children had suffered so much heart/inferiority damage and mind, epidemic, and psychological damage. So every dollar that they spent on a black child's education, they spent $100 on a white child's education. So there was economic damage also.
Absolutely.
That they were doubtful that they would ever overcome it. That means irreparable harm. We have not overcome it.
Right.
We passed this harm on untreated to our children who never overcome it because they never counseled us. They never assisted us in any way. But if it
so let's pause there because what you just said is powerful. That the trauma that this way of being was passed on to the children without any healing, without any education, and so back to Art. When we look at some of the things that are happening with our community in terms of family, right? You have to remember, like some of us, we came from strong family nucleuses. Post-slavery, We entered into a family nucleus, and some of us are fortunate enough to come from roots that after slavery ended, we came into this family nucleus, right? Now there are others, depending on where they're from, right? You have to remember that when slaves were freed, and they were freed in the condition that they were in. They were breeding slaves, all right? So if you were someone who was being bred, and that's what you were used to on a daily basis, and they freed you, your concept of family is distorted. Your concept of sex is distorted, okay? And they freed you. Nobody said, hey, now, we need to reteach you how to rejoin society. They just let you go. And then you continue to carry on those behaviors and pass them to your children. So sometimes what we see out here is a consequence of the distortion. And that's why I say we have to address it with love. Love is the healer, right? I'm not saying it's okay. But what I'm saying is we address that, hey, that's wrong and I love you. And let me teach you how to be better. Go ahead, Mama.
We were freed without, a black woman couldn't be raped because if she was sexually mutilated by anyone other than her slave owner, it was a trespass against him and not her.
That's right.
There was no such thing as family. You were a movable property thing called chattel.
That's right.
So that's what we got to get the difference between discrimination and dehumanization.
That's right. And one more thing. I'm sorry, Mama D, because everything you're saying is bringing, but that's what I was talking about when I said social esteem. Because what will happen is I will be harsher on mine, right? I'll be harsher on the people that look like me when I see them doing things that are a result of the condition without saying, you know what, I love you. How can I help you? Right? Let me help heal you. And so that's what I mean by social esteem. When I see you and you're not in the condition that I prefer for you to be in, instead of judgment, there's love and compassion.
Absolutely. And we must love souls into shape instead of just whipping them into shape.
That's right.
We have that whip beatings and
that's right. And that's something we learned. That's something we learned as well.
Love them into shape instead
that's
of
right.
just whipping them into shape, causing them to get bent out of shape. If we love people into shape, they will stay in shape. But getting back to the socialization, on June 15th, 2012, President Barack Obama signed the reparations, gave non-citizens a governmental leg up in a reparations dream act of development, D, relief, R, E, education, A, alien, M, minors, under the age of 31, and amnesty for many crimes that's not a federal crime. 2 years later, in 2014, they did a follow-up study, and these non-citizen settlers bragged and boasted about the fact of how much economic boom that they had received, and the boom in socialization. So it was interesting to me that you brought up those two things earlier on, because that's exactly what they received. Because everybody is saying, well, they came through no fault of their own. They came because parents decided to break the law and break up their family, leaving their grandmas and grandpas and cousins and uncles behind, and issued into this country illegally when they knew that there was a legal way to come into any country. But the fact that they came to no fault of their own and all of this embracing love, you came and changed. You're the only one that came through no fault of your own for the benefit of everybody else that came. And we need to, yesterday, I got to cut it short because I know other people want to make comments.
You know, one thing about what you're saying, though, and then I'll let you share that before we move on to the next caller. I get where you're going. And my perspective on the DREAM Act is that we have to look at these things as, now, it's fascinating that legislation like that can be passed for illegal immigrants. I'm with you. It's fascinating. And it further goes to show you the level of disdain that this country has for African Americans, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So, but now, do those young children deserve it? I would say yes. And here's why. Because to say they don't deserve it means to take away the fact that we deserve it. And
to be compared.
It's not to be, it's not, I'm not comparing it. All I'm saying is I'm looking at it as a separate situation, right?
Get in line to deserve it. We've been standing in a line for 399 years.
And that's why I started.
We haven't got it yet. So, no, they don't deserve to shut the government down when they are non-citizens. And from 1954 to 1965, black people marched and boycotted and picketed and protested and were bullied, beaten, bombed, and murdered, fighting for the right to vote in the land of our birth. Rights that had been given to us 100 years earlier in the 15th Amendment, and we can do all of that kind of sacrificing to be recognized in the land of our birth, and they have enough power because of this socialization and economical boom executive order that President Barack Obama put in place for them, that they can shut the government down, and they're not even voters, and I am insulted by that. They need to get in line. We are being, the
5 minutes left, y'all. 5 minutes.
Black communities are designated as endangered. Our lives are endangered here.
Mama D, I love your passion.
I'm getting emotional, I know.
Yeah, I love your passion, and I'm not saying that I disagree with you.
Just let me end it with this. Today, at 2 o'clock at Roosevelt Theater, they're going to be dealing with the birth of a nation. Now, that story is about Nat Turner, and it was shut down because black women said that this man who directed, produced, wrote, and starred in this birth of a nation had been accused of rape, and therefore we should boycott that significant movie. Now, when it came to R. Kelly, when it came to Kobe Bryant, these men were accused of rape. Even Mike Tyson was convicted of rape. But they were able to return to their livelihood. Right. And they didn't do that when it came to this young man that did the birth of a nation. So 2 o'clock today, they're going to have a discussion after the playing of the movie. It's on Roosevelt Road, the Ice Theater there. It's owned by black people, and we need to patronize that.
Roosevelt and what?
It's off of Kedzie.
Kedzie.
I don't know the exact.
Okay, I know what theater you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yep. Roosevelt and Kedzie.
Today.
All right.
And I think Representative Ford, LaShawn Ford, is going to be leading this discussion about that movie.
Tell LaShawn I said hello when you see him.
I certainly will.
All right.
So thank you.
All right.
Take care.
All right, you too. Okay, great phone call. Hey, passionate. Always love your perspective, Mama D. Sister Yahweh, I see you. Sel, I see you. I'll come to you after the break. But I want to wrap up real quick. Great conversation. Phenomenal conversation. And all of this conversation is in the context of what it takes for us to go to the next level, right? Both individually and as a group. How do we go to the next level? So when I come back, I'll take these phone calls. Then I'll do some teaching. I want to talk about, being a victim and what it means to be fully responsible in every aspect of your life. And then we're going to close out talking about awareness, self-awareness. One of the most important aspects of the self-development journey. And I think often self-awareness is overlooked and it's not taught. This is one of the, in my opinion, one of the number one reasons why so many people can look at self-development videos on YouTube, read self-development books, take on a diet of self-development and still not make progress. And this is also one of the main things, in my opinion, that distinguishes the work of a coach when it comes to self-development and doing it yourself, right? Awareness, the ability to see yourself from every angle, the ability to see yourself in ways you never saw yourself, that then provide the ability to choose something different. Are you fully aware of you? Or are you like the emperor with no clothes on? We'll talk about that when we come back. And by the way, awareness is part of what I call the transformational trinity. It's the first piece to what I call the transformational trinity. The three things that it takes for a human being to transform how they show up, transform their behaviors, and I'm talking about an adult, by the way, to take themselves to the next level. And we see people do it all the time. I'm going to spend the next hour teaching you how you can do that for yourself. All right? So, thank you guys for listening. Do not step away from your radio. Do not step away from your smartphone if you're watching this on Instagram, if you're watching this on Facebook. By the way, first Sunday doing Instagram. Shout out to the Instagram watchers. Appreciate you all. And so do not go anywhere. Stay right here. When we come back, we'll continue to have Transformational Sunday conversation on the best development show in Chicago. I would say in the nation. Declaration. Right here on WVON 1690 AM, the Talk of Chicago. We'll be right back. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining. I see you. Who's that there? Good morning, Linal. All right. Thank you. Got some waves. Thank you guys for joining. And then those of you here on Facebook, thank you all for joining. What do you think about this morning's conversation? And what would you add to it?
The Talk of Chicago.
Let me know.
The voice of the nation. 1690 WVON.
Torben, how are you, man? Long time no see. Hey, I got your book. I need to respond to you. I have your book. Phenomenal, by the way. So thanks for sharing that with me. If you're still on the feed there. All right. So yeah, tell me what you're thinking about the show so far. Different. Some really good phone calls. I got a couple of phone calls there waiting. And so looking forward to having them on. Amazing. Yes, brother. So I'll be reaching out to you real soon. I appreciate you sending the book. Really good. Good work. And watching your progress too, man. Love what you're doing. All right, so thoughts. Any thoughts you guys have on the show so far? Tell me what you want to hear. If there's anything you want to hear. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And I want to know what makes it better. What would make it better for you?
The fire in Colfax County, New Mexico has grown to more than 30,000 acres and is 0% contained. More than 80 homes have been destroyed by the lava that...
Y'all got to forgive me. I'm starving this morning, man. I ain't got back in the gym and started lifting heavy. My appetite done went through the roof. I'm always hungry now. What's going on, Philip? You enjoying the show, brother? Any questions? Any thoughts? Waiting for this break to be done. Would love to hear your perspective.
That brings to an end a 168-day space for the Expedition 55 crew.
I'm guessing you all are satisfied. Maybe you're taking restroom breaks or whatever. So that's good. So, Cleo in the building. What's going on? How are you? Good to see you. Long time. Cool. Just taking it in. All right. Is my mom on the line? I love what you said about social esteem. I remember being told if you don't want it done right, you get a wow. Yeah, they're passing on what they learned. Yep. Yeah, man. That's it, again. It's that doctrine that we learned of black inferiority, and that's how it showed up. That's how it showed up, and it's still alive in a lot of our older people. And man, you know anybody that's older, man, maybe 70s, 80s, that preach this doctrine of black person, by the way, but they preach the doctrine of black inferiority?
No.
You don't?
Not that I can think of
I
off the
do.
top of my head.
I do. I have some. One is like, don't let your son be in that sun like that. Getting all, don't let him get dark.
Oh, stuff like that.
That's the doctrine.
When you're saying that, I thought you were saying like speaking. Have I heard a 60 or 70 years preach about what you're preaching right now? No, I have not heard that.
No.
Like comments like that,
Yeah.
I have heard that.
Okay. Yeah, that's that doctrine, man.
Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of the older people in our community, they got it bad. You just sit down and listen to them, you like, whoa. I know, and sun is good for you. I mean, sun is the source of vitamin D. And as a matter of fact, did you all know that one of the reasons why cancer runs at a higher rate in the African American community is due to the vitamin D deficiency? Because y'all not in the sun enough. Y'all listening to this doctrine.
You know, my grandma's Haitian, and she even says that to her children.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's like, I think it goes beyond, I think anywhere where we were enslaved people,
Man,
where colonialism had its touch.
the sun is your magic. It's a healer. If you got melanin, that's your healer. If you don't feel good, you go step out in that sun. Make you feel better. People worried about getting brown. It's time to stop all that. It's time to stop it. At least if it's up to me, y'all keep listening to me. You're going to love yourself. Mess around with me. You're going to love yourself. Yeah, man. We told all this foolishness, and it's actually making us unhealthy. It's making us sicker. You know what I'm saying? It's keeping the economics in our community down. It's time to go the other direction. Get in the sun. Support your brothers and sisters. Yeah. Anyway. But I love that. Thank you all for being here. And by the way, if you're getting something from this, don't be stingy. Share it. Other people need to hear it. I mean, I know there's a lot of people on the radio listening, but I sure wish the viewership, because of the content of the conversation, I really do wish the viewership was higher. Man. So by all means, you know, get on. I'm actually inviting a few people out.
Over in Hammond, Indiana, there has been a coyote sighting, and they don't know if it's just one coyote or several coyotes, almost in the family of a wildebeest.
Yeah.
They asked me the truth about it, so please be careful. If you see a coyote, call Wiley Coyote first, and then call your animal control department. They'll help you out.
But yeah, let me know what questions you all have.
Celebrities, pop culture, relationships, and more. Evenings, Monday through Thursday, on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 AM, WVON. The Talk of Chicago and the voice
I think we're coming back on here.
1690 WVON, Berwyn, Chicago.
All right.
The views expressed on our programs are not necessarily those of WVON, Midway
All right, let's
Broadcasting
go.
Corporation, or our participating sponsors.
Live from the Xfinity Studios at WVON. We're your original social media. You're listening to Inspirational Perspective with Linal Harris on 1690, The Talk of Chicago.
All right, we're back. You're listening to Inspirational Perspective. I'm your host, Linal Harris, your very own life coach, right here on WVON 1690 AM, the talk of Chicago. Phenomenal, compelling conversation this morning, talking about the finale of the 6-week series on identity. Some very good conversation. So if you missed that conversation, you can go to Facebook and check out the Facebook Live stream of the show. You can also go to Instagram and catch the first show live as well. Or if you can't do it today, you can always go to YouTube tomorrow where it will be posted. And you can check out the recording of today's show as well as the last few weeks of the Identity series on YouTube. All right, all of that at Linal Harris, by the way. All right, so I'm going to start with some of these phone calls. We had some great conversation. And the topic again is, how do you take yourself to the next level, right? We started off with this conversation around identity, and we had some phenomenal phone calls, and I'm going to start with Sister Yahweh. Good morning. How are you? Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Girl born on what day? Oh, that's okay. All right. All right. All right.
I've never called before, but I have to say, Mama D started at a time where that actually, I'm a scientist, I'm an epidemiologist, so I have proof that it's not 300 years, it's over almost more than a century. But as above, so is below. That's a very old, ancient, Kemetic saying, and that has to do with epigenetics. As an epidemiologist, I am able to tell you that.
So wait a second. You're an
I'm a research scientist.
And you study epigenetics?
I'm not talking about what I think. I'm talking about facts I can prove.
And
I'm on the ilk of Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben, Dr. Carruthers. So we don't deal with just our opinions. We deal in factual aspects.
And you study.
And one of those is epigenetics.
And you study epigenetics.
Yes, I'm I'm studying, but I can't tell you that I know it all. We're still developing, and we're still like, science has been some of the reasons.
You sound like a scientist. When you say I don't know it all, but you know a lot, that's a scientist. All right, sounds good. So
to reconstruct our being is one of your solutions. How do you reconstruct a being? You reconstruct a human being through a cellular and a spiritual development.
That's right.
And that awareness is in what we eat, it's in what we say, and how we think. As a man thinketh. Those who know code, like I come from the Wakanda understanding, and for those of us who are that type of aware, we know it's just not about what I think, but it's an environment that I am, because my genetics keeps changing over time. So you have to use a scientific genetic and culture development to get the results that you're asking for, Linal.
So give it to me in layman's terms, because I understand. I want to make sure everybody else does.
Spiritually developing. One of my gurus says that we have to first become a first-class human being, and it's just as you're saying. Self-awareness isn't just looking in a mirror and say, I'm aware of this self. Self-awareness is a practice of how it is you move every day.
That's right.
Do you eat this? Do you meditate on that? Do you get enough oxygen? Do you get enough exercise?
You speaking my language.
You will not solve this problem by just working on your diet or just working on your game. I know y'all like to play that sports.
That's right.
It won't just be that. It has to be a totality, because you were impacted in totality. That's our solution.
Hold on. Say that one more time. You have to be aware of yourself in totality, because you were impacted in totality.
Exactly. It's as is above, so is below. So when I work on and let me be clear, when I work on equations, when I work on problems around health equity, we don't just look at one piece of the puzzle. We have to look at the whole community, the whole globe. We're actually global. More people didn't know that. In fact,
absolutely.
But we have to break it down in a way that people can take small bites. So as is above, so is below. That is not my opinion. That's a scientific fact. And we have to realize that, like, my claim is there is no more white supremacy. It's only white complexity, because that's something I can solve. See, I'm able to solve some equations, because it's a balance of both. I am speaking from the laws of my eye, and that is bigger than a man of laws. And so all man's laws. And these are the ways that we connect. What you're doing, Linal, is right on point, because you are now woke. You are plugged into this matrix of Wakanda. And I want you to join us, because this is how we're going to move. Not all our people are coming, so that's a misnomer. It's nothing that is absolute except for life and death.
That's true. I agree with that. It's one of those disheartening truths. But, you know, I get that not everybody is going to be able to come along.
But do your path, because you're woke, you're plugged in.
Yeah.
And people like myself, I'm Sister Ya, your favorite epidemiologist. I have been around with a lot of people at WVON, but I want to invite you out to some of our other meetings, not because we're trying to blow you up, brother. You the bomb, but, you know, there's those of us who come before you.
That's true.
We just
That's
want
true.
to make sure we're connecting to you as well.
And
I'm growing from you.
And I can learn.
I have this. I want to grow.
Right.
Because I think that you and I are peers.
Yeah,
So
I would agree.
My peers and my team.
I love that. I love that. As a matter of fact, Patrick, you over there, man? I'm gonna put you on hold, so that way can you take down her information, so that way we can stay in touch. Because I love where you're going. I love the work that you're doing. I would love to ask you more questions off the air. Powerful phone call. Thank you so much. Good stuff. All right. So, Sister Ya, man, and one of the reasons I wanna chat with her is because of her knowledge of epigenetics. And by the way, if you're joining and you're like, what is epigenetics? Epigenetics is basically the science where they're proving that trauma can be passed down through your DNA. So whatever trauma my ancestors went through, they passed that down in their DNA to me, right? And so now when we talk about the healing of ourselves in totality, as she was saying, that's why you have to look at every aspect of your being. And she went to the spiritual, right? Now, if you guys remember, when we talked about identity, how did I say we should be identifying ourselves? As a spiritual creator. And so from that place, as of spiritual creation, is where we begin to undergo the healing. And that's why understanding who you are and how powerful you are and what your power is so important. Because from inside of there is how you begin to heal. So, man, great phone call. Phenomenal phone call. And I'm a learning junkie, so I want to learn. I want to know everything she knows. That's good. All right. Sel, good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
How you doing?
Well, great. Always great, man, when listening to the exchanges that we benefit from listening to WVON. Much greater as a result of listening to some programs as opposed to others over WVON, such as yours. But I've really been enjoying this today and thinking about this scripture talks about stone being rubbed by stone.
Whetstone.
And
yeah.
I get that listening to the conversations, the exchanges, the thought sharing that takes place through your program. When I'm washing my clothes, after putting them in there, when I'm using an upright front end loader, I might stand there for a few moments to watch the clothes as they start. And immediately, the water starts changing color.
Yeah, when it starts to spin. Yeah, when it starts to agitate and shape. Yeah.
And the dirt, filth is coming out. Well, I see this in the exchanges that you have
on your show. As I listen, I'm experiencing the same sensation of things being cleared up. Concepts and visions being clean. And understanding.
Yeah.
Becoming cleaner to the point, if I can use that clothes analogy again, that sometimes when you, and hope folks can, work with me on this, I'm using some of my creative liberty, that when the clothes come out of the washer, they're already dry and folded. And that's what I get out of listening to you all. The last time I had the pleasure of talking on your show, and I was in the same on the same vein with Art and Mama D. I said something in reference to what Art had said. It wasn't all that complimentary, although I did speak to my appreciation for him raising the need for our communities, for families, for individuals.
Right.
To have a code of conduct.
Yeah, I remember that. The code of conduct. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Well, that led to Art reaching out to me through another friend, very respected friend, Philip Jackson.
Ah, yeah, Philip. Yep.
Who, if the community doesn't know, he's not doing too well right now, but
really?
He's fighting. Yeah. But he's fighting a damn good fight. He's still Philip.
Man, okay, we're going to keep him in our thoughts and prayers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I called Art. We talked for an hour. I really enjoyed the conversation. We were able to talk through our surface differences in terms of what we were envisioning should be done with us and by what means. And I really appreciated that he disarmed me considerably regarding my position on things that he might have been saying.
Okay.
And I appreciated him taking the time to explain.
I love that you're sharing this, Sal.
Yeah.
And I know you probably have a little bit more to say, but I love that you're sharing it, because what I'm hearing in your share is conversation, reconciliation, and the opportunity for two men in the same community to connect and understand one another in a new way. I love that.
Two last thoughts now.
Okay.
Right. One, that's Sister Yah. Now, this is a pleasure beyond, comparison. This lady is so full of energy.
Can you feel it?
Humor.
Could you feel it?
Oh, yeah. I've had the pleasure to be in her company a
Okay.
few times.
All right.
And she always pours so much energy into the gathering, no matter how many folk are there. And I indeed appreciate that. Lastly, you mentioned the 3 Ds. Dream it, design it, do it.
That's right.
I'm going to get a T-shirt made with that, man. I sent you an email acknowledging my appreciation for that little simple
Yep.
bomb that went off.
Yep.
The 3 Ds, and I enjoyed that.
Awesome.
Have a great day.
All right, you too. You too. Thank you for the phone call, Sal. All right. Sister Yah.
Yes.
You back?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I don't want to take up any more time. I forgot to mention, we will be at South Shore Country Club today at 12 o'clock with the Black United Fund with an honoring of Henry English, if you all remembered him. So we'll will be there talking about healthcare today.
Okay.
I know it's not the best topic for everybody, but we got to keep singing our song, even if people are not listening.
That's true.
And I forgot to mention that. So today, 12 o'clock, if you can come out to South Shore Country Club, we will be there on a health panel, again, dealing with all of these factors, including the real things like city closings of mental health clinics and all of the mental health challenges that we're having.
Yes, yes.
So,
So real quick, since
that will be there.
So since you called me back, I got a question in the Facebook feed. No, I got a question, and I think that you'd be good to have you on to talk about it. So the question was, can you say that epigenetics can be linked to generational curses?
Okay, so let me start off by saying the question is, can I say that epigenetics
That's right.
can be
Linked.
related?
Related or linked. Yeah, that's right.
Or linked. So we, in our terminology, say correlation.
Correlated.
When we
Okay,
talk
correlated.
about correlations, I cannot definitively talk about correlations to one aspect of one thing to another unless there's a direct influence on it. So I cannot really say that, and I would be erroneous to give you that type of context without factual backing.
Got it.
And there's another piece that I have to tell you, Linal. We don't use terms like curses. Curses is a judgment, and it's also a term that is not scientific.
Got
So
it.
I can't speak of a curse because somebody's curse is also somebody's blessing.
Got it.
So it's always about perspective. So I'm very careful to not mix those types of things, even though I get what you're asking me.
Yep.
What you really want to know is how epigenetics passed down from one concept of a family to another and had a bad outcome. And the answer to that, the outcomes have not been favorable. So the answer to that is yes.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much.
Was that more precise? I don't want to.
Hey, no, I love your scientific way of being. It has I love the integrity with which you answered the question, so I appreciate that.
All right. I hope to see you all out, and I'm going to be working with you a little bit more. I gave Patrick my information. You can see Brother Style, all praises, and to Brother Philip Jackson. I'm a Black Star Project member as well.
All right.
So I belong to a lot of companies and a lot of organizations, and I'm here to serve as a servant leader for science. I'm
Thank
bringing
you.
science to the people, baby.
I
so
appreciate
I hope to
it.
work with you more as well.
All right.
And have a
Sounds
day.
good. All right. Take care of yourself. All right. Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. So, all right. Let me jump into what I wanted to teach on. Because I love taking the phone calls. At the same time, I want to make sure that you walk away with something very tangible and that helps. Excellent. Thank you for asking the question. It was a relevant question. So let's talk about this idea of being a victim. All right? Because one of the things that plagues us is this victim mentality, right? Now, what do I mean, first and foremost, when I say victim? What I mean is someone who is operating from the context of being victimized, feeling powerless or helpless in the face of some circumstance or situation. All right? And that could be a person, right? Emmanuel could say, the type of leader that Linal is makes me feel victimized, right? You get on the phone with me, you could feel emotionally victimized if I talk to you a certain kind of way, right? Maybe you feel, if I'm your employer, you feel helpless. You feel like you're a victim of the job, right? Many of us, by the way, feel that way about our jobs. Now, to break this down in a way that we can all understand it, right? Because first we have to be able to identify that in some area of life, we are victims, all right? In some area of life, Linal Harris is still operating as a victim, right? And my job, when it comes to awareness, is to constantly be surveying my life, my surrounding, my actions, my behavior for that area of life. Okay? Now, another way that we think about being a victim, let me say this. Not how you think about it. How I shared it before is how you think about it, right? I want to share how I think about a victim. A victim is not interested in breaking through. Let's think about that. Now, when the breakthrough that I had in Ghana, right, the reason why this trip is so important to me, and the reason why I keep pushing it, I keep saying, hey, you want to go. If you can get there with me, you want to go on this transformational tour. Once again, 3 seats left. 3 seats left. You can get more information on how to go to Africa with me in October at murdermediocrity.com. All right? But the reason it's so important to me is because one of the breakthroughs I had in Africa was a new place in my life where I was acting like a victim. And one of the reasons that awareness hit me, right, and this is one of the great things about travel and why travel is transformational, is because your senses are heightened, because you're in a brand new place, you become more aware of your surroundings and more aware of yourself than you normally are. And so that's why people transform from traveling, okay, because of awareness. Now, what I became aware of in Ghana was what a victim really looks like. What do you mean, Linal? A victim, our ancestors were victimized by every meaning of the word. Okay? They were in chains. The man, chains around the neck, chains around the wrist, chains on the ankles, right? And these chains were tethered to concrete walls. And they were in complete darkness in a small space with 200 to 300 other victims. They were malnourished. They were constipated on purpose. They were dehydrated. So they were victimized not only mentally by the environment and the surrounding, they were also victimized physically. And so the only place that they could not be taken or victimized was spiritually. This is why I believe they survived. Because even though they were physically and mentally victimized, right? We're talking about the definition of victim. Spiritually, they still were thriving. All right? Because if their spirit wasn't thriving, that's what you call death. Did some of them die in those cells? Absolutely. They died once their spirit succumbed to being a victim of the situation, right? So here we are today in 21st century America, and we feel victimized. And the only chain, right? There's no physical chains anymore. The only chain that creates that way of thinking is the mental chain that you are tethered to. That's why you feel victimized, right? It's up here in your head. Victimized in your mind, right? By what you can't do, by what you hear, or even by your own input. Some of us have bound ourselves by the music we listen to, or by what we don't listen to, right? We had the show on inputs, outputs, and how important that is to your overall psyche. So, a victim is not interested in breakthroughs. A victim actually feels good about staying. There's a payoff, by the way, this victim mentality, about staying where they are. A victim is only concerned with things getting incrementally better, right? So let's think about that. If I'm in pain, if I'm being victimized by pain, okay, and let's say this pain is in my foot. At that point, when you're being victimized by pain or allowing yourself to be victimized by the pain in your foot, you're only concerned with your foot getting better. Not a lot of people say, I need to lose weight right now, right? They're like, man, I just want my foot to be better. They're not concerned with the overall transformation of the entire body. They just want the foot to be better, right? Because they're being victimized by the foot. I hope this is making sense. Is this making sense to you?
Keep explaining.
Keep explaining? Okay, all right. All right. The other thing that victims do is they're quick to have excuses and reasons. Well, the reason I don't have a job, the reason why I can't make that kind of money, the reason why I'm in this particular situation, the reason why, and for those of us in our community, it is so easy to go there. But remember that victims are capped, right? If that is where you live, that's where you will always be unless you go after breakthrough. What is breakthrough? Being fully responsible. It does not matter my situation. It doesn't matter what the circumstance is. I'm going to move forward. I am going to achieve the impossible because that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in my breakthrough. That's the difference. All right? Victim versus someone who is being fully responsible for their life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's like taking ownership of your decisions.
Full ownership.
Okay.
And ownership of your situation despite who else you can blame. Right? Mm-hmm. I could blame my economic situation on white complexity. I love that she used that. Or on systemic racism. I could say that if I wasn't being discriminated against, then I would be in a much better economic situation. And then guess what victims do? Victims get agreement. We find other people that agree with us, right? And then we have a community of people who all are saying the same thing. Oh man, it's economic. Oh man, they're holding us down. And we have conversation about it. But there's no conversation about the solution. There's no conversation about what it takes to break through. So what does that look like? Okay, you're economically depressed. Then where do you want to go? Right? Think about a runaway slave or someone who could break free of the slavery system. Do you think that they were having constant conversation in their mind about their restrictions, or they were focused on their breakthrough? A runaway slave, a successful runaway slave, was constantly looking for the opportunity for breakthrough. Did they sleep too long? Is it a storm? Is it dark? Will the rain allow for the dogs not to track me? Constantly looking for the right circumstance and situation for a breakthrough. I'm concerned with the present circumstance, looking for the breakthrough, right? This is the difference between a victim and somebody who is fully responsible. The other thing that victims do is they look for rescue. They're waiting. Some of us are waiting on reparations to change everything. And while, hey, I will say it all day. Do we deserve reparations? Absolutely. Am I waiting on reparations? No. I'm not about to put my future in the hands of somebody else, especially when over the last 400 years they've shown me that they do not care. To sit back and wait, to sit back and talk, to sit back and congregate and seek advice on something that potentially may not happen is, in my opinion, the attitude and the being of a victim. I'm done with it. Now, let me be clear, can I take action towards reparation, right? Can I begin to seek a breakthrough in terms of some type of economic payout? Absolutely. I'm being fully responsible. I'm going to go get it. All right. If they won't give it to me, I'm going to put together the program, the legislation, the party to go get it. That's being responsible. But as long as I'm talking about it, I'm being a victim. Here's the other things. Victims don't have breakdowns. Now let me explain this one. Because whenever you're up to something, those of you who are part of the Slay Your Goals community, the members, you know exactly what this means. This is why you want to be a part of that community, okay? Because you get another level of coaching, another level of support in terms of what you're up to. But let me explain what I mean. By the way, you can go to slayyourgoals.com to download the free book and become a part of that community today. But let me explain what I mean. Victims do not have breakdowns. See, the only way you can have a breakdown is when you're going for a breakthrough. What does that mean? I have a big goal this year, all right, around my business. I have a big goal this year around my health and well-being. I have a big goal around my marriage. I have a big goal around my purpose on the planet and what it is that I'm supposed to deliver, all right? I'm playing a big game in those areas of my life. I am looking for breakthroughs, okay? So as soon as one breakthrough happens in my life, I'm ready for the next. Now, when you're pushing yourself at that level, that's when you have breakdowns, right? So I'm acting from a place of vision. I'm acting on my goals, right? And then I might not align with the goal. I might miss my commitment. Why? Because I'm human, right? So I can say, one of my goals was to increase my strength, right? And my athletic prowess as a man, right? The reason that's important to me, I'm going to be 42 this year. I don't have that much time to be strong, y'all. There's going to come a day when I'm old and feeble. Let's be real, all right? I won't be, as powerful physically as I am today, right? So because I'm blessed with that, I want to maximize it, all right? Now, so that's part of my well-being goal. Not just to be healthy, but to be fully vibrant in every aspect of my life, every arena of my life. Now, what that means is if I'm not keeping my commitment daily in terms of how I take care of myself because I have a big goal, that becomes a breakdown. And because I'm going somewhere, I can immediately see there's a breakdown in my life. There's a breakdown in my health. I don't have to get sick for me to see there's a breakdown in my health. Because I'm going for excellence in body, mind, and spirit, not mediocrity, right? So as soon as I feel mediocrity, I'm like, whoa, wait a second, I don't feel right, right? I don't feel vibrant. I don't feel strong. There's a breakdown. I call it a breakdown, and I move forward. That's the difference between a victim and somebody who's going after a breakthrough, all right? And I'm thinking this makes sense. Victims have problems. Victims have drama. Whole lot of drama. Let me tell you something. If you got a lot of drama in your life, it's because you're a victim. I'm not mincing my words. I don't have a whole lot of drama in my life. Why? Because I'm not allowing myself to be victimized. I'm not allowing my health and my body. I'm not allowing my wife to victimize me. We don't have drama in our marriage. We don't have that, right? Because I'm not going to be a part of a marriage that victimizes me. And I don't believe she will either. Okay? What happens to victims is life becomes about avoidance and freedom. I'm avoiding the problem. I'm avoiding getting in trouble. I'm avoiding, losing my job versus going to the next level at my job. You see the difference? There's a difference there, right? I'm avoiding getting in trouble at work versus actually stepping up to say, what else can I do and how can I be promoted and have a breakthrough in terms of what I'm creating here. And so in the end, being a victim has no satisfaction, but here's the big but. While it has no satisfaction, it can become comfortable and familiar. Being a victim can become a part of your comfort zone where that feels normal to you. And doing anything else seems scary. Now, that's weird when you're already a victim. If I'm a victim, then why would I be scared to step forward powerfully if I'm already being victimized? So let's talk about, so that's what a victim is. So let me define for you what it means to be fully responsible. So when I'm fully responsible, that means that I'm willing to be held accountable. I'm willing to be accountable for my behavior. I'm willing to be held accountable for my interpretations, right or wrong. I'm willing to be accountable for anything that pertains to me. And the only thing I really care about when I'm responsible is the success of my relationships and the things that I'm putting my hand to. That's what matters to me. Those are the areas of my life where I'm being fully responsible, and that's what I care mainly about. That is what my mind is on. That is where my mind will rest. I had a session with one of my clients a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things I shared with the client, I'm actually pulling it up here as I'm speaking with you all. One of the things I shared with him was that one of the most important reasons for a goal is to ensure that your focus is on building rather than how things may be falling apart. Now, why is that important? This is important because you are a creator. You know, in the Identity series, we established that you are a spiritual creator. And so if you have thoughts of a victim, guess what you create more of? If you have thoughts of responsibility, guess what you create more of? If you have goals, and they have to be big goals, and the reason they have to be big goals is because big goals, the only way you can accomplish them is when you get obsessed with them. Small goals, you can think about other things. Like other things can be on your mind. You know, your mind can wander. And this particular client has had some misfortune in his life. Okay? And we were talking about it. And one of the things I asked him, I said, where can you be responsible for this misfortune? He said, what do you mean? I said, this didn't just befall you. You likely created it, right? Because we're creators. So if these things keep happening to you, then it's likely that you created it in your thoughts. Like, what are you thinking about? Where's your mind resting? And so he said, well, let me think about that. So he took that away as a practice. So my clients, they get practices, right? And they think about these things over the week to create awareness, right? This is about awareness. Awareness is where transformation begins. And so as he thought about it, he came back a couple of weeks later and he said, man, I thought you were crazy at first, but after I began to think about it, I realized that everything that has happened, that at some point I thought about it. I thought about if that happened, how it would feel. If this went wrong, what would I do? And I found myself really in some ways being seduced by thoughts of impending doom. What I mean by impending doom is what can go wrong. And the reason you have time to think about what can go wrong is because what you're building isn't big enough. When you're building something that's big enough, you don't have time to think about what can go wrong because all your mental faculties are on building that thing, on creating that thing, on creating that marriage, on creating a healthy body, on creating a more profitable business. But many of us, we just got goals to get through the week. If I can just make what I made last year, you know how to do that. You can do that on autopilot. You did it already. What if you doubled it? That would be a big goal. Doubling your revenue would put your mind to work, would make you a creator the creator that you ought to be. But instead, if you're just dibbling and dabbling in everyday little small goals, your mind's got time to play. And it can start to go and think about what if what you built already started to fall apart. This is why big goals are so important. The most important reason for goals is to ensure that your focus is on building rather than wondering how things may fall apart. Because if you begin to wonder how things may fall apart, your mind in your spirit, as they connect, you might just start creating it. And then as they fall apart, you start to become a victim. Oh, woe is me. And you did it to yourself. And what there is to do is to get fully responsible and start building again. That's what being responsible looks like. But let me give you a few more places to look in terms of responsibility. Real responsibility has nobody to blame. If my wife and I are at odds, if we're out of sorts with one another, being responsible says, Linal, what's your part in this? Being a victim is, I can't believe she did that, or she treated me this way, or she said that. But being responsible is, Linal, what's your part in this? How can you, as the man in this household, make this right? Despite what she may have done. Right? Responsibility. So there's nobody to blame. There's nobody to take credit. There's no obligation. There's no duty. It's just, am I responsible? Am I being responsible? And when you're being responsible, that means you are acting from a context of responsibility where the only thing you're concerned about are the current facts and what's the next course of action. That's it. Doesn't matter what happened. Because someone who's responsible is only focused, they're future focused on what needs to be done. Right? So this is one of the reasons why I address our community the way I address us. Because we spend a lot of time placing blame. We spend a lot of time being a victim. Instead of saying, what will we build? What now? That should be the conversation, right? Not taking away from what happened, right? If you listen to the identity series, I talked about it. I talked about the cause. I talked about the outcome. That knowledge is necessary for the healing. But now what? Everybody who heard that series, now what? Now what are you going to do? How are you going to take yourself to the next level? And this is where awareness comes in. The key to awareness is asking yourself, what can I do better? Stop looking at other people. If you see somebody else this Sunday and you like, what made her put that on? As soon as you ask yourself that question, I want you to look at yourself in the mirror and say, what made you put what you put on? What made me put this on? Stop looking at other people. We are so busy looking at other folks, judging other folks, that we have no time for self-assessment. And self-assessment is the first key to taking yourself to the next level. This is why so many people wallow in mediocrity. Because they're concerned about everybody else while you're being mediocre. But you don't even see that you're being mediocre because your scope, your lens is outward focused on everybody else. You're worried about everybody else, what he doing, what she doing, what he got on, what she got on, what they driving, what they not driving, what they house look like, what they house don't look like. And you're not even worried about your own situation. I had a client once who his request for coaching was, should I buy a Maserati? Seriously. And so when we got through, by the time we got through, we found that he was paying way too much for his mortgage. He was already financially out of sorts. And the only reason that came into his level of being, the only reason why he was in that question was because he was outwardly focused. He was worried about what people thought about him and his business, what they thought about him as a businessman, what they thought about him as an entrepreneur if he wasn't able to deliver or to look a certain type of way. Instead of being inward focused and saying, how can I get my finance? What do my finances look like? What does my household look like? How much money do I have in my account? That wasn't even part of his, we had to go through a whole coaching session for him to think that. It was, should I buy a Maserati? Because he was outwardly focused looking at other people. So today, what questions are you asking yourself? And for every question that you ask somebody else, I want you to ask yourself that question 3 times. And maybe practice asking yourself that question 3 times before you ask them. I mean, that. If you do that, that's a whole nother level of self-awareness. But awareness is the key to transformation. Not just to transformation, but to growth. You cannot go to the next level without self-awareness. You just can't. There's no reason why. There's no way to do it at all. Are you fully aware of your health? My wife was telling me the other day that she has a friend, and her friend is going to the same trainer that my wife goes to. And the trainer told her that she needs to lose 30 pounds. And she was like, what? Wait, I need to lose 30 pounds. What? I don't need to lose 30 pounds. I look good. Then she went home and looked at herself. Said, oh, wow, I need to lose 30 pounds. Now, how is it that you can't see yourself, even when you're looking at yourself? How is that? Part of the reason why is because we're just not doing self-examination. We're so outwardly focused that we're just not examining ourselves. I'm sure that same friend has called somebody else overweight because she didn't think she was. But because she spends all her time outwardly focused, she hadn't looked at us. She hadn't taken stock of what was going on right there. It took somebody else to say, you need to lose 30 pounds. And then, by the way, disagreement until she stopped and reflected and looked and said, wow, I need to lose 30 pounds. Now she's going. Now she's like, I got to get it together. But what was going on before that? That's my question. Like, what was going on before that? What was happening up here mentally, psychologically, that allowed you not to see the opportunity, that allowed you to overlook the self-evaluation, the need for self-assessment? And what I'll tell you is, what it was is outward focus. So are you self-aware today? Are you obsessed with self-development, with taking yourself to the next level? It's okay to be obsessed with it. You could be obsessed with it spiritually. You could be obsessed with it physically, right? You know, we talk about this as the temple. Are you treating your body like a temple for real? I mean, would you pour grease all over your temple floor? Uh-oh. I'm talking about how some of y'all eat. I mean, would you pour grease and all kinds of filth all over your temple floor, but at the same time, you put it all in your body? You know, what does your marriage look like? And who are you being in your marriage? Are you so focused on your significant other and their flaws, right? You can call them out. You got your top 10. What are your top 10? What are the top 10 areas that you can do better? Don't call nobody and ask them. You think of it yourself. That's self-awareness. I know where I need to work in my marriage. And often when my wife asks me what can I do better? I got to stop and think. Because I'm not focused on what she needs to do better. She makes me mad. Yeah, she gets on my nerves sometimes. Yeah. But I don't focus on it. I'm too focused on my own development. Who I am. How can I be better? To be worried about, focused about what she might need to do. Period. So, that's the work this week. Awareness, self-awareness. Because here's the thing. If you're not aware, don't make sense for us to keep talking, having a conversation about going to the next level. Because going to the next level requires, as a prerequisite, awareness. 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 It's the same way it goes with math. If you don't know 2 plus 2 equals 4, then you might as well, you can't move to multiplication. Don't ask nobody to divide if they can't add, right? Right? That's the same way. That's the same conversation that we're having this morning. If you are not aware, if you're not practicing self-awareness, don't ask me, how can I set goals and keep them? Like, it won't even compute. It won't even make sense for you. Because the first key is self-awareness. Because then, when you set the goal, because you practice self-awareness, you'll be like, oh, wait a second. That's why I didn't hit the goal, right? Because you're having that internal conversation, not an external one. They're your goals, nobody else's. Some of y'all right now mad at other people because they ain't delivering on your goals. Man, if they would just call me back, I would be successful. If so-and-so would just do what I need them to do, then I would be able to go to the next level. And that's your goal. But it's time to get self-aware. So the next series that we're going to be tapping into, this is the prerequisite conversation, is how to take yourself to the next level. How do you take yourself to the next level? So be joining us the next few Sundays. We're going to be tapping into that in detail, taking your phone calls, answering your questions, taking your comments. And I'm excited to do it. I'm excited to get into that conversation. And we'll be looking at icons, African American icons, and how they did it. And what it looks like to truly be self-aware and take ourselves to the next level as powerful, spiritual creators. Because that's who you are. All right. Slay goals, murder mediocrity in your life, and live the best life possible. That's our show. This is Linal Harris. I've been your host. You've been listening to Inspirational Perspective. Thank you guys for joining. Tune in again next week at 7 a.m. where we discuss how to live the best life possible. Right here on WVON 1690 AM, the Talk of Chicago. Stay tuned for the Borges Report. All right.
To Special Counsel Robert Mueller.
That's the show this morning. Hope you all enjoyed it. Man, so much work to do. So much work to do right here. Don't matter what nobody else is doing. I got to focus on me, man. Hopefully you're focusing on you too. All right. You guys have a phenomenal Sunday. I appreciate you all. And until next week, take care of yourselves and keep practicing your self-awareness. What can you do better? All right. Talk to you later.